focus on your breath in a calming way. Breathe through your nose. That's helped me magically. I got contact with the Trejo group in Woodstock. One of my doctor friends lives in Woodstock, and he introduced me. And we have been working by Skype. She is very perceptive.
Sasha.
Sasha.
Mm-hmm.
She watches my breathing. My original symptom was I would get out of breath and I'd get anxious. And I want to get air into my system. And then she taught me the method. And I quieted down with my breath. And it quieted down my whole being. She would like me to not open my mouth because she'd like me to breathe through my nose. But I got some caps recently, and I really like to show them off. And I don't know whether to open or close my mouth. Now, if Sasha was there, I want to.
Well, I think you should talk.
I am getting to breathe through my nose. And the sessions, which so many.
One a week you were doing?
No, with her.
Yeah.
But I do them.
Couple, 3 times a day?
Two times a day. With the measuring the breath at the time and
the control pause,
the control
before
pause,
and the after.
Yes. It quieted me. I didn't get that anxiety about breathing. And this method is Dr. Trejo method is quieting me down. And then when I exert myself, I have to breathe in my mouth, and I try not to. The Trejo method, I think is good only when you perform it regularly. And I find I'm quieter, I'm less anxious about my breath.
Have you
I'm
found
breathing through my nose. The breath is it's like an environmental thing. When you're breathing heavy, you don't have a different world.
Good day, I'm Thomas Yakula Fredrickson from BreathingCenter.com. I have the privilege today to be with Ram Dass here on the island of Maui, where we've been working on applying breathing normalization. This process started with my wife Sasha about 6 months ago. I then took over and helped Ram Dass through Skype and have journeyed here to Maui to help him over the last couple of weeks. Ram Dass has been kind enough to offer to share a few comments concerning his experience with us, and I hope you'll enjoy these. Thanks.
I had a breathing difficulty. It was gasping for breath, and I didn't know what to do with it. And I had a friend on the East Coast, a doctor who was knowledgeable, and he knew that there was Pasenko, a breathing center, and he said that he had a young son, who was had been one of their patients, and the young son had been some asthma, and he was cured by this method. So I called up and we set up some sessions on Skype, and it was fun on being teaching on Skype, and Sasha was and Thomas were the two teachers that I was experiencing, and they really worked very carefully with me, very carefully. And when I show a breath that I was forced to do in my own mind, Sasha would give me, she said, "You're learning the method, and please go to the method." And it was good. It trained me. They have done wonderful work in training me to breathe differently than I was breathing. And I know it works. It works. Sasha is from Russia, and Thomas is from here in Maui, and they are a couple, and they are running this breathing center. Once she got this potato method for Thomas, because he had bad asthma, and he's used the method very much. If you have any breathing problems, or you have a friend who has a breathing problem, go to Potago's method, the breathing center, and say I sent you. And believe me, you won't be sorry. You'll get so much, your attention, your attention will be focused on your breath. And this was entirely different than other breathing techniques I've found, but yet it works. It works.
My name is Victoria Lumb. I'm originally from England, and I've had asthma probably for like 3 years now. It was very severe. I was reliant upon steroid pills, steroid inhalers, and rescue inhalers pretty much on a daily basis. I would basically walk around the block and have an asthma attack. It was that severe. I was hospitalized probably 3 times during those first initial 2 years, just from having very severe asthma attacks, coughing in the night, whether it be 6 a.m. attacks, 3 a.m. attacks, or just during the day from kind of walking upstairs. So it was very severe at that time. What happened January last year, 2011, I stumbled across a book regarding this method, started to read into it. I was still in London at the time. Then I moved to New York in February and took a weekend course after a little bit of research with Sasha and Thomas.
I see.
So from that,
when
sorry, go
you
ahead.
first developed asthma,
It was 3 years ago. It was
it just suddenly happened? You just
randomly
suddenly
just
couldn't
started, yeah. It's just very bizarre. I'd kind of been fit, healthy and athletic all my life. I'd played netball, hockey. And although I always struggled with long distance breathing, I didn't consider myself asthmatic. But yeah, 3 years ago I was diagnosed with asthma.
I see, okay. And so you went to a 3-day intensive initial workshop, I'm sure.
Absolutely, yeah. And it was just a whole different world for me following that. The science behind it made complete sense. I was able to implement following that, saw immediate improvements. So with respect to the breathing exercises for the first 6 months, I would probably do them as often as I could, but at least 3 times a day. They're actually very relaxing, regardless of actually improving your breathing in a sense. But for me, I stopped using my inhalers pretty much in the past 9 months. I've probably used them a dozen times, if that. So it's been a big improvement for me. No more sleeping and waking up to coughing fits. For the first few months, I would use the tape across my mouth to stop myself from breathing through my mouth at night. I would often measure my control pause in the morning and just saw it steadily increase throughout the past, 6 months. So that's been fantastic. But I think the main benefit for me is the exercise. Previous to the breathing center method, I used to try and play squash, but I would often need my inhalers after 20 minutes of exercise. Now I can actually run on a treadmill 30 minutes without any problem whatsoever. I can run 3 miles without breathing through my mouth and with having no asthmatic attack at all. So
Wow.
that for me was huge.
Oh, that's huge.
It is.
When you first learned the technique, method, how did you begin? Did you ease into it? Was it a challenge as you began? Any clues and hints you might give to
Yeah, it is a challenge to begin with. It requires discipline and dedication. You've got to be committed to doing the breathing exercises. And I know everyone's got a busy day, but even if you sat at an airport, you sat at your desk, you've got to dedicate the time to doing it because you will see the benefit. And for someone like me, because I had such severe asthma, it was very easy for me to see the benefit immediately, and therefore that's a good incentive.
Right.
Whereas I think the difficulty may be if someone doesn't have as extreme asthma, it can be difficult to discipline yourself to maintain that until you're at a point where you don't need to do it anymore.
Right. I think that's what happened with me. Learning the method but not having any breathing challenge made it more difficult. It felt like it made it more difficult to cut out the time each day to do it. But if you can't breathe, incentive is right there. Yes,
absolutely. It's a bit of a challenge, the talking. That is the one thing I found the most difficult, because talking without breathing through your mouth is very difficult to master, and I still catch myself occasionally doing it. But because I'm so aware of it, it now allows me to have the time afterwards where I can do some breath holds to counteract what I've lost.
Other than the asthma, you've been generally very healthy then.
Oh yeah, I mean, I never get any kind of other illness, but I was constantly on inhalers. So it was a big challenge for me. I'm 30 years old. I've always been fit and well and active. So the past 3 years have been upsetting for me. So this made a huge impact on my life. I feel much happier, healthier. Strangely enough, I find the breathing actually is very peaceful. It makes me calm down. I think a lot more deeply than before I answer certain questions. I don't react as much. So in general, I feel like a happier person. And I have to say, I feel probably more healthy now than I did when I was 25. I can work out without a slight bit of problem. I just feel happy and healthy within myself. I've had the best year of my life, and a lot of it is to do with this change of lifestyle. The experience has been immediate health benefits. Just using the breathing through the nose alone has allowed me to increase my stamina, feel healthier. Now when I see somebody breathing through their mouth in any sense, it just upsets me, because I know how unhealthy they are being by doing that. It's just changed my mindset. It worries me now to see people breathing through their mouth. But if the science behind it makes sense, I just wish more people would be aware of it, and at an earlier age, so that it's easier to implement. Because for me, I think the challenge is keeping the discipline. For everybody else, unless you've got breathing problems, I can imagine that the dedication to it is a bit of a challenge. But I would recommend it to everyone. I tell all my friends, my family about it constantly. I make my mother put strips on her mouth now when she's sleeping. So believe me, I'm spreading the word. I want everybody to feel as healthy and good as I do.
My name is Jesse Steinberg. I've been practicing a breathing normalization method for 2 years and 8 months. It's been an incredible journey for me. When I started, I had asthma. I had asthma for 25 years of my life. I had terrible allergies. I had digestive issues. I had very, very low energy. I had brain fog all the time. I had these symptoms very intensely. My asthma, I carried around an inhaler and a steroid inhaler for many, many years of my life. And when I started the breathing normalization method, I could barely go a day without using my medication. In terms of my asthma, I stopped using medication almost from the first time that I took a workshop at the center. And my allergies took a number of months to go away, but it's with great pleasure that I say that I have come so far in my health from someone who is quite ill to someone who is much stronger and healthier. And my breathing is, when I look around and I meet people and I see their breathing and I see their health, my health is gone from really being as low as anyone in the room to higher than anyone in the room. And so it's been an honor and a great personal journey, one of the greatest personal journeys of my life, to do the breathing normalization method and to regain my health and regain my sense of joy in life. And so I thank the center for that. Thank you, Sasha, and thank you, Thomas.
Before I started using the Buteyko method, my asthma would become periodically pretty bad. The first week of using the exercises, I didn't have asthma at all. I started out basically taking my inhalers during the night and before I went to sleep, and during that week I didn't have to take them at all. I could run, I could walk around easily, I could swim.
The big change, I guess, would be playing sports. She plays sports now and really enjoys that. My health got better, and specifically I've always had a stuffy nose, clogged nose, and really for the first time in my life I now always breathe through my nose, which is pretty great.
To apply the Buteyko exercises, sometimes it was hard. Sometimes I would have to practice them several times before I got it, but after I got it was actually pretty easy.
My name is George Trejo, and I live in Newburgh, New York. I really can't stress how much the Breathing Center has helped me out. I went just last year. I was playing saxophone, semi-professionally, playing clubs all night, and out of nowhere, one night when I'm about to play, I have an asthma attack, and I'm wondering what's going on. I haven't had asthma since I was 10 years old, and I don't have any inhalers with me or anything because I haven't had to use the medication for 10 years. I'm running to the emergency room, and I was like, okay, maybe it's just a one-time episode. And then the next day I didn't really recover, and I was going to the doctor for a week. He's giving me the medications again. I couldn't believe my asthma had returned, and there I was with the medications, and I was not really getting any better, not at all. It had been like a month or two. My health was awful. Like I could barely walk as far. And then after 2 months or 3 months, I knew there had to be a different way to recover from asthma. I had to start playing again. So, especially since I was going to school for saxophone and music, and this was something I wanted to do, and I had to find a way to get back and playing. So, after some research, I came across the Breathing Center online. And it turns out they're only here in Woodstock, New York, which was fortunately only an hour away from where I lived. And they had a workshop just within like 2 weeks away. And I was like, wow, this couldn't work out any better. So I go and I attend the workshop. It was very, very small and personal, only 5 or 6 people. And both Sasha and Thomas were able to be there. And it was definitely a good way to find out about what they were all about, and I did feel an improvement within a few weeks after just attending the workshop, which was something I was definitely interested in through the exercises they taught me. But after maybe over a month or so, I noticed the improvement, but it wasn't as much as I really wanted. So I was still in contact with Thomas after the workshops, and I was able to do the individual instruction for about a month. I was able to go on to visit him personally, and also do the Buteyko in motion. And after his guidance, and I was able to increase my control pause almost like at least 5 to 7 seconds, like every week. It was really fast. I couldn't believe it. And then once my control pause was above like 20, 25, he suggested I make sure I exercise every day. And then little by little, I was gradually like walking, and then I wanted to see if I could run again. So I started jogging lightly here and there throughout my walk. And then it was very, very gradual, not forcing myself. And eventually I was able to run by the end of the month, like 3 to 4 miles, 5 miles if I wanted, within an hour. And it was tremendous improvement. I couldn't believe, like, just 6 months ago, I could barely go up a flight of stairs or anything equal to that. And I just really like to express my gratitude for the Reading Center, how they really helped me get this far and get back into my life, and it's been great. Thank you.
Yeah, I am Monique de Lang, and I live in the Netherlands, and I'm a naturopath, and I want to tell you about my journey with breathing normalization. And well, let me tell you first how it all started when I was born. I was born at home, and I was immediately brought to the hospital, and I spent a lot of my youth in the hospital. Now, I had a lot of bronchitis and pneumonia and was hospitalized several times. And doctors told my mother they were afraid I wouldn't pass or reach the age of 7 years. They said, well, she might die or she might grow out of it. So my mother was always very protective. She gave me warm clothes and milk to drink, but it didn't help. When I was 7, I got severely ill, and I was hospitalized. I'm sorry, I don't know the English word. Hospitalized for 7 weeks. What then happened was what they said, I'd grow out of it. And grow out of it meant I was still ill a lot. I had to use medication, I missed a lot of school, couldn't play outside. And when I grow up, I thought I'm going to cure myself and all other people with alternative medicine, because I already knew normal medication didn't help me. I studied a lot and I did all kinds of therapy for myself, but it didn't help. And it was sad. At one moment, well, not one moment, a lot of moments, I had to use the rescue inhaler, the preventative inhaler. I'm sorry about my English. Auto-immunization therapy for allergies, the nasal cortisone inhaler for the nose, additional pills, the Singular for the breathing. That wasn't helping at all together. Then they added more pills and I was still ill. And when you're a naturopath and something happens like that, you don't like it at all. Someday I was reading on the internet and I found out about Dr. Trejo and his discoveries, and I thought, well, I'm going to try that, and it brought me a lot of good. Well, at the moment I can tell you, I am without medication at all. I don't need medication. Yeah, great. I haven't been ill for I don't know how long. I haven't had a cold, and when you're asthmatic, you know what it means to have a cold. It doesn't mean you have a cold like somebody else. You've been having a cold for 3 days. No, you will be ill for 6 weeks because you will be having the bronchitis. You will be needing the antibiotics, etc. No colds, no flu. I didn't need my flu shot. So that's fantastic, isn't it? Yeah. And after the good experiences, I became a specialist myself, so I can tell other people, I can help other people, and because I'm a naturopath already, I can even offer the consultations with covering of I can teach the children now, so they don't fall in the same trap. And I'm especially hoping to help children because I know how hard it is to be always ill, and it will save them so much years of trouble and coughing and feeling sick and having illnesses all the time. So that's my goal, to reach out to the children and save a lot of years for them.
Well, before I started applying breathing normalization method, I had, to me, kind of severe asthma in the sense that I didn't have the type of asthma that I would wake up in the middle of the night with asthma attacks, but my asthma was induced by multiple things. So I had very severe allergies, really severe sinus trouble, and anything that I was allergic to would trigger an asthma attack. So it used to be where it would trigger, would trigger the sinuses, and then it developed into triggering, coughing and asthma. And so when, with anything, with cats or outdoor allergies, exercise-induced asthma, all of these things triggered an asthma attack. So my doctor had me on multiple medications and multiple inhaled steroids that didn't really help for that, because those were really for someone that would have bronchial constriction or, during just without doing anything or at night. And so since mine were triggered by environment or exercise, that didn't really work for me. And I was using my rescue inhaler multiple times a day, over 10 times, 12 times a day. And my doctor had actually prescribed for me to use my rescue inhaler preventatively, so that I, when I was going to be into a situation or when I was going to exercise, that I would use it so that I wouldn't have that problem, which did help, but it made my body very dependent on use rescue inhaler in order to have her breath. So I just became very dependent on that, and I couldn't even take a quick jaunt from my house to the car and back without needing to use a rescue inhaler. It would just flare up, and I would just get, I would sweat, I would just have trouble breathing immediately, and I would have to take time or use my rescue inhaler in order to get that back. And after applying breathing normalization, within a very short period of time, a couple of weeks, my body no longer created these symptoms and these reactions. And in conversations with my doctor, he said, if you don't need to use the rescue inhaler, obviously don't use it. So I was able to reduce the use of the rescue inhaler preventatively, since I didn't feel like I really needed it, and I never went back. I never had to use it again. And then in further, conversations with him, I no longer needed any of the medications that weren't working anyway. So I was able to completely wean myself off of all of those asthma medications in order, just by applying the breathing normalization method. And then as far as my allergies were concerned, they were greatly reduced as well, since my body wasn't really creating those symptoms anymore, and I wasn't having such strong reactions to, the environment and athletic-induced asthma and those types of things anymore. So I was able to reduce my allergy medicines as well, and I was on prescription allergy medicine because over-the-counter medicine didn't work, and I was able to first, reduce to over-the-counter and then to where I don't really need it at all. when I'm involved, when I'm immersed in very serious, lots of allergens at once, I may have very small reactions, but it's nothing like it was before. It would escalate into really severe illness, and to the point where I couldn't even go outside. I actually lost an apartment because of my allergies, because part of the stipulation was I needed to do yard work, mow the lawn and things of that nature, and I couldn't do it. I couldn't be outside, and I was actually told by my doctor not to go outside, not to be outside in the spring and summer, and just stay inside as much as possible because my allergies were so bad, and I would just go into a complete illness where I literally would be in bed for like a week, and I would just be really, sick with coughing and asthma, and just it would develop past a typical, stuffy nose allergy. It would develop into full-blown illness for me. And I don't really have that anymore after applying the method. And I no longer really take anything since I started, which has been about, 10 months now. I think there's only been one time where, the season got really, really bad, where I just felt the need to take something, but most times I don't need to take anything. I don't have any reactions. I'm able to be outside. I'm able to enjoy doing things I want to do. I'm able to exercise without a problem, without worrying about my breathing. And I guess for me, the most important thing that I've gotten out of breathing normalization is having a positive, healthy relationship with my breathing and not being afraid of my breathing anymore. I feared my breathing before. I feared being into a situation that would make me go into a suffocation attack. And now I don't have that fear anymore. And there's a sense of freedom that goes with learning the method of knowing that how to deal with anything that may come up. You know how to adjust that with the method, and you have a positive relationship with your breathing because you just become very aware, and it becomes second nature, and you don't even have to really think about it. You just do it automatically, and that freedom has been the best thing for me.
Hi everybody, my name is Ivan Pardo. I live in Boston, Massachusetts. I am originally Colombian. I am 45 years old. And my short story is I started my Buteyko journey around a year ago. My oldest sister, she has been asthmatic for all her life. Last year, she had a lot of bad issues with her asthma. And I was trying to find an answer. For some reason, the universe contacted me with the Buteyko Center in Woodstock. I started to take the classes with them, and has been a change of life from something that I supposedly was in good health, but I wasn't in good health. I had a lot of issues with myself. And the journey after 6 months, this happened last year, the change was huge. My health improves 100%. The health of my sister was stopped having asthma attacks after a month of start doing the exercise. I hope you love my accent. I'm sorry. And I start to feel change with myself 2 months after I start to take the exercise. I start to take the training. Has been a wonderful experience. Right now, I can say that my focus, my mind is very clear. My energy is 3 times higher than it was before. My day start 5:30 in the morning. I go to the gym for 2 hours. After the gym, I am always busy with the full days until 11, 12 o'clock. The energy is the same. My eating habits change a lot. I eat healthy. I feel great, and my sleeping I sleep just few hours right now, 5-6 hours, but I wake up totally rested and totally ready for every single day.
Around college, my asthma started getting a bit worse, and I was taking my inhaler more often, and I would more often have attacks that lasted longer. And about 6 years ago, it got even worse, and I ended up going on an inhaled steroid every day and maintained the use of my rescue inhaler when I needed it and before exercising. And knowing that steroids are very bad for you, I really needed something else to help me. And that's when I heard about the Buteco method through a friend. And I came and studied with Thomas, and even in the 3 months I've been studying now, my symptoms have reduced incredibly. I didn't take any medication through the entire pollen season. I've gone off of my steroids. I only take them every other day, reducing my use by half. I no longer need to take my albuterol for asthma attacks. I use Buteco if I feel tight, and it works perfectly. When I'm running using Buteco in motion as opposed to when I ran before, I end my run feeling completely energized as opposed to feeling completely exhausted. And my breathing returns back to a calm pace immediately when I stop my running motion, as opposed to when I used to run before, I would continue panting up the driveway and into the house.
We discovered Buteco method because my son had been diagnosed with asthma at the age of 16, and the medicine was not allowing him to lead his life the way he was used to and what he wanted to. And we suddenly saw the New York Times article. I was like, this is it, we have to do it. So we both took the weekend workshop, and Brian has improved tremendously with his medications and his not having asthma symptoms. Personally, I took it just to be supportive for him, but I found that my seasonal allergies were just about gone this spring. I did not need any medication when everybody around me was taking the Zyrtec and the Claritin and feeling really sick. So, and I've noticed extra energy, I sleep better, so it's been an amazing improvement in my life overall.
I'm David Wiebe, and I live in Woodstock, New York, and I've suffered from asthma since I was 10 years old, a disease which Western medicine considers incurable. And actually, I had it well in control for many years until a rapidly advancing eye condition I have called macular degeneration caused my retinal specialist to insist that I stop using the inhaled steroids that were exacerbating the condition. And I discovered through further research with authorities in the field that the steroids, in my case, were destroying the macula slowly and steadily. And if I was going to maintain and keep my eyesight, I had to quit it. So I did. And in the process, my asthma became completely out of control. And I suffered a very serious 1.5 years of a very unpleasant life, struggling with serious symptoms, requiring a trip to the emergency room now and then, and a return to prednisone, which is a serious steroid, just to save my life, until I had the great fortune of encountering the Buteco method through, I couldn't be luckier, the fact that the Buteco Center USA happened to establish itself in my own town where I live. When I discovered the method, which was about 2 weeks before realizing they had established themselves here, I would have traveled thousands of miles to get this treatment. But as it was I was very lucky, and so I immediately got into the program with Dracone and Sasha, and they gave me the training, and taught me the method. And I started out in very bad shape, and within 2 to 3 weeks I started feeling tremendously better, and my breathing improved, my overall health improved, and it was beyond my hope that I could have that kind of a lifestyle improvement. Buteyko method is absolutely effective. It requires a commitment of time and discipline, and if a person is willing to really apply themselves and do the exercises, make the lifestyle changes, it will improve your breathing and your health.
I'm Susan Lipkins. I'm the wife of David Wiebe, who is a client of the Buteyko Center USA. I actually took the courses with David, and I'm very glad I did, because I feel that my health has been affected for the positive from the Buteyko method. It's just an added advantage. I never had asthma, and I don't plan to have asthma in the future. But I've changed my style of breathing, and I have incredible energy, and I did have an enlarged adrenal gland here. It is now shrunken to almost nothing, and nothing was helping that at all. So I'm very happy to have that side benefit. David's health has been tremendously affected for the positive with Buteyko method, and if it wasn't for the Buteyko method, I don't know where we would be. He was having terrible trouble working. He's a violin maker. The dust from my wood, I'm a bow maker, was affecting his lungs as well. We might have had to have a change of careers. I don't know. But now we can have our careers. We can live the way we want to. And the cost benefit of time involved doing Buteyko exercises versus being able to have what lifestyle we want, it's really easy to decide.
My name is John Procaccino. About 3 years ago, I hurt my voice on stage. I've been a professional actor for about 30 years. And then through a series of traumatic personal and professional events, I began to use my voice incorrectly, and I developed a breathing disorder where it's felt for the last 3 years like I've been breathing through a straw. And I thought it was asthma, but that's been ruled out. And I read an article in the New York Times about the Buteyko Center in Woodstock, New York. So I contacted them, and over the past month I've been working with Sasha and Thomas, and through the Buteyko method and lifestyle, I've been given a set of tools and exercises that even in just the past month has dramatically reduced my hyperventilation. And it's given me the ability to, when I start to hyperventilate, to calm my breathing down. And my breathing is much gentler now. I still have a lot of work to do and a ways to go, but already some of the added benefits of doing Buteyko, I'm much more focused, grounded, I'm sleeping better, I'm eating less, and I have much more energy. Working with Thomas and Sasha has been a real blessing in my life. And I guess the main thing I want to say about Buteyko is the hope that it's given me for improving the situation with my breathing and reducing stress in general in my life.
Hi, my name is Charles LaBarre, and I practice acupuncture, and I'm also an allergy elimination specialist. And my wife saw a poster one day for the Buteyko Center where it said that they treat asthma and allergies. And she thought, oh, competition for my husband. As a good wife, she made a phone call, ended up speaking to Thomas at the center, and he and his wife Sasha invited us for tea. So we came over for tea and had a nice long, I don't know, it was about 2-hour meeting with them talking about the Buteyko practice, and we were so taken by them and by the practice that we decided to sign on for the course. We got into the Buteyko Breathe Less course, along with the lifestyles, which we took together and started practicing together. Now, for many years, I had been suffering from a respiratory disorder, which I have self-diagnosed as exercise-induced asthma. And when I look at the symptoms as a healthcare provider, that's exactly what it was, but it's been getting worse year by year for the last 10 plus years. I had CAT scans. The CAT scans suggested that I had chronic pulmonary interstitial fibrosis, which is ultimately a fatal disease. I didn't have any other symptoms of that, but I had this crackling in my lungs that my physician would listen to. They kept getting worse and worse and worse every year. Well, I started the Buteyko breath work, and then hiking up Overlook Mountain, my wife and I did what we were told to do, is stop breathing through our mouths. So huffing and puffing up the mountain like a couple of semi-disabled steam locomotives, we got to the top after breathing very carefully through our noses and exhausted, and came back down doing the same, and stayed with our practice 3 times a day, day in, day out, and within a couple of weeks, my symptoms, my asthma symptoms when I was hiking and biking were gone. They were just absolutely gone. We stayed with this, and one thing I noticed over the course of the next few weeks is my trousers got looser and looser. I went in for my physical in August, my annual physical. I'd been doing the breath work since June 24th. So it was roughly 2 months when I went into my physical. First thing that they noticed is that my blood pressure was down. The second thing that they noticed is that I had been 186 pounds last year at my physical, and 1 year later I was 168 pounds, and I was not trying to lose weight. It just happened. It's the only way I can describe it. It just happened. And my asthma symptoms were essentially gone. I would still get a little coughing from time to time. My control pause isn't really high enough to say that I'm totally cured, but I've been essentially symptom-free. And when my doctor listened to my lungs, his eyebrows went up. Now, this is not a guy who raises his eyebrows easily. He's very conservative, very smart, very well-educated physician. But his eyebrows went up, and I said to him, "Doc, what's going on?" He said, "You know that crackling in your lungs?" I said, "Yes." He said, "It's gone." I said, "You mean is that you just don't hear anything?" He says, "That's right, it's gone." I said to him, "Is that unusual?" He said, "It's not just unusual, it doesn't happen." And I said, "Guess what? It just did, and here's why." And I started explaining the Buteyko process to him, gave him the manual Buteyko for doctors, and now he's very interested in the whole thing. My wife and I are continuing to practice. Our practice has fallen off a little bit the last few weeks because we are in process of moving into our first house, which I hope to be doing a lot of Buteyko work in. And I don't know, my health keeps getting better and better. She went through a difficult patch during our transition time, approaching buying the house, actually buying it and moving into it. But now she's improving. She's lost a little weight, sleeping better, better energy, a lot of things that are subtle. Hers changes are more subtle than mine, but still good. And I just feel myself getting healthier and healthier. Haven't caught any of the respiratory stuff that's going around. No colds, no flus, no nothing. Digestion is great. I mean, I feel like I'm actually, well, I had a birthday at the beginning of November, and I feel like I'm getting younger. One thing that happened, I was in hospital last year in 2008 for about 10 days where they gave me steroids and lots of painkillers, including opiates, very strong drugs. And by the time I came out, I had severe cognitive dysfunction. I got better slowly over time, but never came back to where it was before I went in. And now my short-term memory is improving, my cognitive function is back and then some. I'm really surprised at how much better I feel in any way you could imagine.
Before the Buteyko method, I didn't really play many sports like I do now. Once in a while I would try to play a sport, like maybe football with my friends, but I could play, but it was really hard for me to, and I would have to take a lot of puffs from my inhaler. I just finished soccer season. I played football in school and then baseball in the spring. since I've been doing the Buteyko practice, I've had a lot more concentration, which allowed me to work better at my art. It does help my ability to perform in school also, because while taking a test, I might have gotten an asthma attack from like being nervous, and so I would have to like step out of the room and like take my inhaler, or if I couldn't, then I would be in a lot of trouble because I just couldn't concentrate at all. So that would lower my grade. But now I can concentrate much better, and so my grade has gone up, and I've been able to concentrate a lot more. The younger you are, the quicker you can get better. And so if you start at a young age, it's really fast and easy program to get over your asthma. Since it helped me so much, I want to share this knowledge and like help other people get over their asthma too.
Hi, I'm Roshni Thompson. I'm a teacher in New York City. I'm only 26 years old, and yet this year I ended up in the ER 5 times. I saw many doctors, both traditional and naturopath, and none of them were able to understand what was going on with me, let alone help me. I remained constantly out of breath and felt too weak to take care of my son. My poor state of health created a lot of anxiety and depression in my life, to the point that I felt uncomfortable even going out. And then I found the Buteyko Center. I started learning the method, and soon I understood what the source of my trouble was. It was hyperventilation. Dr. Buteyko taught that hyperventilation can lead to many serious diseases. From my own experience, I know it is very important to determine whether you hyperventilate or not.
Hi, I'm Eileen. I have been an asthmatic for 45 years. I started having asthma symptoms when I was 3 years old. I had bronchial pneumonia. I spent probably 3 times a year in the hospital every year since then. I have taken more kinds of asthma medication than anyone that I know, and I finally had so many health complications, 10 millimeter kidney stones, a cancer scare. I had an autoimmune scare with temperatures above 104 degrees for months, and they couldn't find out what was wrong with me. I wanted to do something alternative because the meds weren't helping me, and I just felt like I was slowly killing myself. I was very lucky that I live in Kingston, which is not too far from Woodstock, and I opened the paper one day, and there was just a session of introducing people to Buteyko. And I got online and found out, wow, this is it. You know, something made me buy the paper that day. And I have been practicing for 3 months and enjoy the exercises. Don't be afraid of the exercises. You'll learn, you know, what your number is at first, and I'll tell you that when I first started, my number was 3, which is close to death. And my number now, when I wake up in the morning, is 27. And I no longer take Advair, which is the one medication that was really scary for me because I felt that the steroids were really playing havoc with my body. I am still a medication taking asthmatic, but I take so little, and I'm slowly weaning myself off. And Buteyko does advise that. He doesn't say just throw away your meds. You know, you can do this. And when I'm in a situation where I'm overwhelmed or running around like Cody was, if you take a moment and do a couple breathing exercises, you just center yourself and you're in control. And I think that's probably the scariest part about having asthma is that you're just not in control. And you think by carrying around your inhaler that, you know, this is my savior, and it's not. And, you know, I'm grateful to Thomas and Sasha with their patience and the information, and I know that you can all be successful.
Explain what you do with the dogs.
Oh, I work with a dog rescue. And we rescue Jack Russell Terriers, which, if you're familiar, are a very, very high energy breed. And I take care of 37 Jack Russell Terriers, and walking them and running them and kissing them. And it was always a huge trigger for me because, you know, dog hair, a lot of us have that problem. And just walking, a lot of us triggers. You know, there's 2 triggers right there. And it is my passion. I mean, I'm supposed to be there right now. I'm on my break. But, you know, it's just a joy. I go to the gym, I'm walking, I'm 5'2", maybe, and I'm walking at 4 miles an hour on the treadmill for a half hour with no symptoms, doing breath holds and liking it, you know, enjoying the freedom. And I just can't stress that it just gives you the control.
So I noticed after the pneumonia was gone and I was recovering that the Advair, I was starting to get stomach issues. So they gave me Prevacid. So I'm taking the Prevacid, I'm taking the Advair, and I'm taking the Arbuterol. Now I'm still using the Arbuterol 2 to 3 times a day, even with the Advair. So I'm like, nothing's working here, something's wrong. So eventually I got better, and I was pretty much just living on the Advair and the Arbuterol. So I was searching the web, looking for different things, and finally, a few years later, I came across Buteco Center USA, and I couldn't believe they were right here because I live in Connecticut 3 hours away, and I said, this is great, it's really convenient. So I called Thomas, and I was pretty frustrated, and I talked to him, and same thing, I says, can you help me with my asthma? And he says, well, I can cure your asthma if you do what I tell you you're supposed to do. So I was all excited, so we were going to do a Skype session, and then I said, well, you know, I want to go there, because I was very skeptical, very, very skeptical. I was like, everybody has a pill or a potion or a book or whatever, and I want to make sure this thing is going to work. So we did, what, a 2-hour session the first time? So I went home, he gave me an exercise regimen to do, and I went home and I did them exactly the way they were told, 3 times a day. I started paying attention to how I was breathing. I started making sure I was breathing through my nose only. And within 1 week, now I was on the those 2 inhalers. I dropped the Advair, and I was using the Arbuterol once a day by the end of the first week.
And before you were using it how long?
I was using it probably 4 times a day, along with the Advair. So I was pretty surprised that was happening. And I kind of was using the Arbuterol at night before I went to bed because I was afraid to go to bed without using it. I didn't want to wake up gasping. But then I realized after a while that I didn't need it. So after 2 weeks, I was off everything. I could go through the entire day with nothing. As the weeks went on, I did run into a couple of bumps in the road where if I ate too much or I was talking a lot and I was letting out a lot of air, I'd have to use the inhaler. But generally, I can say right now I haven't touched it in 3 months. And I'm out shoveling snow in the cold air. I was cutting the grass in the summertime. I got a push mower that's not self-propelled. The dust is blowing everywhere, and I've got no asthma attack. And it's just totally fascinating that it happened. But I'm very strict, and I did everything I was supposed to do, and my numbers increased. My control pause was like 0. It was 0. The highest it's ever been has been 40, and it averages around 30 to 35 now, which is amazing to me. I never thought I could pause my breath that long.
It's been 3.5 weeks now where I haven't had an inhaler at all, which is the first time in 30 years, which is just an amazing thing. And my energy's been better. I've lost some weight. I've changed my diet too, but I think some of it's from the breathing. And even though I've changed my diet and I do chiropractic and acupuncture and get that done to me, when my breathing gets bad, I know that these exercises is what corrects it at that moment. I can tell that's from the breathing, not just the other changes too in my life.
I actually stumbled upon the Buteco workshop to help a friend with his asthma, but ended up believing that it could help me in my own life. I don't have any asthma, but I run track a lot, and I was hoping it would improve the way I breathe and also the way I live. I live a rather stressful life, and I was looking for some relief in terms of my breathing as well as the way I feel at the end of the day. Meeting Sasha and Thomas was remarkable. I think they have a world of knowledge to share, and I think for all those people interested in the workshop, I think this is a workshop way beyond just an asthma cure. It's a cure for well-being.